Hey everyone, welcome to Pickleball and Beyond. My name's Ryan.
My name is Vino.
And today we're looking at the Hudef Viva Pro Gen 3. So we've played quite a bit with their previous two from the series, so it's super exciting to receive our hands on the Gen 3, which is coming out later this week, and we are super excited to test it out before it's actually released. So let's hear your thoughts on this paddle.
So we have definitely played with the Gen 1.
Yep.
We have enjoyed the Gen 2, and this seems like a progression.
Yes.
In every sort. As far as the paddle itself, it looks and feels very nice. They have literally improved a little bit on like even the construction.
Yeah, on the edge.
The edge guard seems a little bit nicer.
Yeah, we noticed our Gen 2, which we've used a lot.
Yes,
you can
it's a
tell
demo, right?
Yeah,
so it gets used a lot.
The edges have started to fray a little bit.
Yes. But this like compared to lots of the other paddles, it definitely feels an upgrade. Like the plastic feels a little bit more hardy and durable and very nice. The grip also seems a little bit nicer. Just compared to the others, it feels a little bit softer and nicer. So overall, I really like it. The design is very nice. I like the blue and the white and the white and the black. It really has a really nice combination. So how would we categorize this paddle?
So we were discussing this. We're gonna throw it just barely in the power category. It could be at that all around, but towards the high end of power, but we're gonna just sneak it right into the power side.
And let's explain that, right? This one, the Gen 1, is such a control paddle.
Definition of a control paddle. Even though the shape of even though with that elongated shape, it plays so soft, it's crazy. Where
then they came out with the Gen 2 that just went on the other side.
Other side. You definitely fell off. Yeah, it fell off on the control side.
Right. And we'll talk more about like the surface and everything like that. This definitely seemed to have gained a little bit more control. That
compared
really,
to the Gen 2.
That
Absolutely.
Surprised us.
Absolutely.
So that's the reason like we are putting in the power side, but it's very borderline to the all around paddle category. So let's talk about control, because that's the one that surprised us.
Yeah, so that's what, again, it was nice that they brought some control to this paddle. It's definitely not like the Gen 1. I mean, this is ridiculous. Super, super soft, especially for an elongated paddle. But I mean, compared to the Gen 2, hitting resets was so much easier. My drops were way more consistent. That was why I personally didn't gravitate towards the Gen 2, is it was lacking a bit in that control. It was a little tough to control some of the really fast-paced balls. The Gen 3 does a much better job. Again, it's not where this Gen 1 is, but it definitely can handle it quite a bit better.
Yeah, and what we felt was there was much more dwell in this. It felt like the ball stayed on.
Yes,
and like when you dinked, you were able to control it somehow. When you had to reset, you were able to control it somehow. Your third shot's drops was very nice. So definitely they have upped the game on the control.
Yeah, like you said, that dwell time I think was the biggest factor compared to the Gen 2 especially. Made those shots a lot easier in the control department.
I think the next thing that we need to touch about was the big difference. So what's the big difference, right? Shape seems to be the same. Weight's very similar. 7.9 for this paddle, 8.1 for this, and this is coming right at the center. Right? So very similar. As far as swing weights go, this comes at 122. This one comes at 128 on the high side, and that comes at 120. So it's like it's got the best of both almost. Again, with twist weight, don't have to guess, 6.5. Really nice.
We knew it'd have the best number.
Right? 6.1. And that came at 6. Yes, and this came at 6.3. So again, at that center. So this is a Kevlar surface with a mixture of carbon fiber. The only other like true paddle that we have played with that has that same property, not like a mixture, is the Pickleball Ips, the S, and we really like the control on that as well. Right. So that seems to be like the major difference. One of the big things with like the Kevlar and the roughness and the dwell is spin. So let's go straight to spin.
Yeah, the spin on this paddle, I think along with that surface, but also that combination of that dwell we hinted on earlier, I mean, compared to the Gen 2 especially, we noticed, it was getting some spin, but nothing crazy. Paddles are getting more and more spin. The Gen 1, again, it's similar to the Gen 2, gets a decent amount of spin, but this was multiple notches better than both.
Yes.
I mean, consistently.
Yes.
It wasn't like, is it getting a little more space? This was worlds better.
Again, this gets a lot of dwell space.
Yes.
Right? It stays, it cuts.
Yeah, but on the fast shots, it was
this gets that fast shot.
Yeah, the Gen 2, right, it just rifles right off this paddle. It doesn't have time to get any revolutions on it.
And this one got those revolutions and that fastness.
Way more spin. Yes. So that was the biggest improvement, honestly, was seeing such a big jump in spin on these paddles.
Serving, slow, fast, drives, cutting those ones, you definitely. So Slices. It's a very, very high tier of spin.
Yes.
Let's move into power.
So the power was awesome to see because, we already talked about how a lot of control was retained, but the power was very similar to the Gen 2, almost identical.
We were surprised about that.
Very surprised. We took lots of shots of hitting the ball as hard as we could, measuring with the radar gun, hitting our serves, used the radar gun, and roughly, looking at our serves, I remember consistently we were hitting like 5 miles per hour, so faster with the Gen 2 and Gen 3 compared to the Gen 1, but these numbers were almost identical all the way throughout.
And when you drove, I felt you got a little bit more power from that. You got a ton of topspin.
Yes.
And so it would dip and stay. You drove it correctly. You brushed the ball. You got this, it pushed it forward, but it still caught.
The drives were a lot cleaner.
Yes.
And then from the pop side of things, again, it was very similar to the Gen 2, but it's almost a little easier to control with that little dwell as far as how much it's popping. But we did notice pretty similar speeds when we were. I was trying to hold the paddle as still as I could. We were measuring how fast the ball is coming off. Again, the Gen 1 was the slowest, really dampened the ball.
Yes.
A lot of those weren't even coming back over the net when I was holding it at the kitchen. Like, you'd have to apply force to get it over. Where these guys were both certainly poppy enough to get it back over.
Yes.
In comparison.
And what I feel is because of the reduced swing weight, it's going to be a little bit more maneuverable as well at the kitchen line. And I felt like when you were hitting, you were able to control it a little bit faster. So you had faster hand speed. Adaptability.
So this surface was interesting. It took a little bit of getting used to, and it's hard to explain it in words. It's the first couple times you hit it, it's like, oh, that's just a little different. It's really hard to explain it until you can get your hands on one. But after I used it, I mean, again, only like a game or two. Then it's like, okay, now I got my shots dialed in. It is kind of hard to put a word on it.
You're right.
It really has that long dwell and dampening, but it hits hard at the same time when you activate it. It's very strange to get used to.
Yes, and I think if you are demoing this, I would definitely give it some time. Like, take some time with it. Like, take a couple of games, play some slow shots, really try it, because it comes to its own the more you really feel to it. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. Compared to this, you just pick this up, you can just play like this, right? But that just takes a little bit time for adaptability. So what kind of players do you think would like to paddle like this?
It's a good question. I think, what I loved about it is it seemed like it really can fit a lot of needs, right? Because it retained more control than the Gen 2. But again, we threw it in the power category for a reason. It hits very hard. And
right up there,
for me personally, again, with that, how you get much more spin on it, I think it's certainly a superior paddle to the Gen 2. If you're a control player, I would certainly go to the Gen 1 if you're looking for the elongated shape. You don't see a lot of elongated shapes with that much control. But to me, it just seemed like a Gen 2 in terms of power, but you picked up more spin and more control.
And something that I've liked about Hudef is they kind of remind me of a people's paddle. Right? Good value, good money. And something that we have got a lot of questions on is the durability. And every iteration, they have really improved on it. Like, it's really been like the next sequence off. Get what I mean? So even as far as durability and stuff like that, I really feel it's a step up. It definitely is a step up. We have enjoyed the Gen 2 paddle, the Hudef paddles. All the Viva Pros have been fun, and it plays for different characteristics.
So the current MSRP is going to be $169 with our code. Make sure to use it. You can get it for around $150 then, so make sure to save yourself some money. Very interesting and fun paddle, to be honest with you. Super nice to see that they're making these generational improvements on this paddle. So we're both super excited to announce that we're actually going to be giving away a brand new Hudef Viva Pro Gen 3. So to become eligible to win this paddle, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, leave a like on this video, and drop a comment as to why we should give this paddle to you. So you have until May 10th to be eligible to win the brand new paddle.
Always love hearing from you. If you want to try the paddle out, we have it to demo in the Rochester area and southern Minneapolis. We love helping people find paddles. That's our passion. Again, subscribe and hope to see you in another paddle review.